So the first thing that we want to do is we're going to add an armature. So we come up here to add. Notice I'm in object mode. Add armature. And you don't see it, but if I go to wireframe, there, now you can see it. This is a bone. It's like a bone. It's called an armature. The most important part to know about this is this broad end. See how it's shaped kind of like a diamond? It's got a broad end and a thin end. The broad end is the part that stays stable. So I want you to imagine that as like where your leg connects to your hip, where this would be the part that moves. So this is where your knee is, and your leg is able to move out from your hip, but your hip doesn't move out from your knee. That would be weird. Okay, so we always want to keep the stable part in the parts of the bird that aren't really going to move, or that's the core stable part of the bird. So let's go ahead and hit, while you have the bone selected, hit tab to go into edit mode. Now we can move this in many ways. We can grab either one of the balls at the tip here and move those. So I could actually grab this ball here and move it. Okay, but I'm going to hit Command Z. I want that centered. Or I can hit this and move this, which is actually what I want to do. I'm going to hit G. And what I want to put it is right here in the bird's neck, where you can imagine where I would want the head to move. Like there would be a joint here that connects the bird's spine to the head. So this is where a movement point would be. So I'm just going to grab it right there. Next, I'll hit E and extrude this right out to the tip of the beak. And this is where I'll be able to grab that and move it around and make the bird's head move. Next, I'm going to grab this one, hit E to extrude down towards the next motion point, which would be at the tip of the tail. And then E to extrude one more time to the very tip of the tail. So that's how the very basic structure of how the bird's going to move. This will make it so the bird's head can move. He'll be able to move in his middle, in his waist area, and then he'll be able to move his tail at the tip of his, where at his butt where his tail is. Next, let's hit Y and look at your bird from the front view. From here, we'll grab that same ball and let's E and extrude out towards the top of the leg. And then one more extrude down towards the bottom of the leg. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side. E and extrude out towards where the leg extends out from the body. And E one more time to the bottom of the leg. Now you could technically give this bird a toe, different toe bones, but I'm not going to be moving this bird's toe, not for this simple animation. So I want to keep it simple. I don't want to overcomplicate it. I'm just going to have the basic bones for basic movement. It's a small creature, basic creature. Okay, so now let's square up and look at the side view, and you'll see that this doesn't exactly look right, but that's okay. We're going to fix it now. Draw a little square around where your bird's hip bones, I guess you call it, or thigh bones, top of their leg bones will go. Hit G and let's move this over here. By drawing a square around them, I was able to select both bones. And so I'm keeping it nice and symmetrical still. Then same thing, I draw a little square around this and drag this to the bottom of the feet. This does not have to be exact. Okay, the bones are not visible, so it doesn't matter if they protrude outside of the body or anything. They are only for reference to help us move and animate. So your little bird skeleton should look something like this. Okay, let's square up, tab back into object mode. Let's go back to material preview so we can see what our bird looks like. And now I'm going to show you a trick so that your bones are always visible on the outside to make it just, a little easier for you. Over here, while your bone is selected, so my bone structure is selected, I select the little running man here. I can open up viewport display and I check bone in front. And now, no matter how I look at my bird, I can see the bones right out front. This is going to make it really easy for me to animate. Now what I want to do is I want to pair my bone with my bird body. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to parent it. I want all of my parts to follow my bone structure. So I drew a nice big square around the whole thing. The most important thing is that you want your eye, your leg, and your bird body to be highlighted in dark orange. And you want your bone structure to be highlighted in this golden, lighter colored orange. Whatever is the golden lighter corner color is going to be the parent, and everything else is going to be the children, and the children always follow the parent. It's a parent-child relationship that we're making here. If you have problems getting your bone structure to light up in that light gold, really ultimately what it comes down to is it's the last thing that you select. So you can select it all and then make sure that you select your armature last. So I could be like sphere, hold down shift, or sorry, not shift, control, sphere, cylinder, that's the leg, cube, that's the body, and then armature last. So now everything is selected, my legs, my eyes, my bird, and my bird armature is the light golden color. Everything else is the rich orange color. Once I have it selected and it looks like this, I can right click and I go to parent and I select with automatic weights. Now everything is parented to my bones and it's time to go test them out. So I'm going to click on my bones. Now that I have bones selected, I have a new option up here. I can go to pose mode. While I'm in pose mode, I just want to kind of test this out and see how this is working. So I can select this bone and then I can hit R. Okay, that's working well. I can hit R on the Z axis and I can make the bird's head twist side to side. This is looking great. I can hit R and make it look up and down. This looks fantastic. Command Z, because I want to return him to his original position. Let me test the tail. Yep, the tail's moving great. Command Z, and I can test the legs. Yep, they're perfect. Oops. Command Z, Command Z, Command Z. Okay, so I have my little bird body and all the parts are working well. If your bird is not moving as perfectly as mine, if the eyes are not moving with the head, if the tail is controlling the eyes, or any other weird thing, I'll want you to skip ahead to the weight painting part of the tutorial and then get your weight painting fixed and figured out. Get it the best that you can. It doesn't have to be perfect. And then come back to this section to complete the animation. Okay, now that our bird has been rigged and it has a skeleton that controls it well, now it's time to animate. So to animate your bird, we're going to pull up this bottom pane here. This is our timeline. This is our time indicator. It tells us where we're at on our timeline. And you see here it says we're starting on frame 1 and ending on frame 250. That's kind of long. Let's go ahead and change that to 120. This is 120 frames, not 120 seconds. So just be aware of that. Okay, so now we're ready to start laying down keyframes. If you've never used keyframes before, it's basically instructions in the computer that tells whatever part you're trying to move a starting position and then an ending position. and then the computer does all the in between for us. So it's a great time saver. So the very first thing you want to do is on frame 0 or 1, come up here, make sure your mouse is hovered over your bird, hit A to select all the bones, then hit I, and you'll notice as soon as I hit I, it laid down a keyframe, which you can see right here. This little gold diamond is a keyframe. And that's telling it start in this position. Next, I'll take my time indicator, move it over to 10 frames, and now I'll make a change with my bird. So one thing I'll do is I'll move this leg up. Maybe I'll move this leg down. I'll move the tail up. I'll move the butt up just a little bit. And maybe I'll do RZ and I'll move the bird's head so it's looking to the side just a little bit. There we go. Once I have the bird in the second position I would like, I hit A to select all. Make sure my mouse is hovered over the bones when you do that. If your mouse is down here, it's going to do something different. So make sure your mouse is hovered up here. A to select all. I to lay down a keyframe. And you'll see now I have a second keyframe. If I run this back, you'll see I have my first motion. Okay. Then I'm going to move to frame 20. And from here, I'm going to make some more movements. So I'm going to move this leg down now and this leg up now. And I'll move the tail down a little bit. Maybe I'll move the butt down a little bit. And I'll do RZ and have my bird's head maybe look the other way just a little bit, not too far. There we go. And then A to select all, making sure my mouse is hovered above the bird. I to lay down a keyframe. And so now you'll see I have this little bit of walking motion. And now I don't have to do this all by hand. I think once I make my first starting pose, and then I'll call this walking point A, walking point B, then I can actually just copy these two frames. So I draw my circle around them and I hit Shift D to duplicate and scoot them over. I can select all four of them, Shift D to duplicate, scoot them on over. Okay, and then I'm going to keep doing this. Shift D to duplicate, scoot them on over. Then I just want this one. Shift D to duplicate, move it on over. And then you always, always make your last keyframe identical to your first keyframe to have a perfect loop. So there we go. Now when I play this, you'll see my bird is walking in place. And then it'll be a perfect loop. Okay. Now, you'll notice it's kind of a little bit of robot-y motion. It's moving at a very consistent rate of speed. Organic creatures don't do that. So I want to give it a little bit more of a natural feeling. And to do that, I'm going to select all the keyframes. I draw a circle around them. Right click, interpolation mode. And I'm going to do this Bezier curve. Just to fool around and show you, let's do this bounce. And I want to show you what that looks like. Super bouncy, super bouncy. Not very realistic though, okay? So I did Command Z, undid that, right click, interpolation mode, the Bezier curve. And what that does is it starts every motion out slow, speeds up, and then slows down, which is a more realistic organic movement that living things do. So let's see what that looks like. See, and you may not be able to notice the difference between that and the first version, but I'm telling you, it's much more organic looking. It's like not as robotic, and that's great. Okay, so now that we have our bird walking in place, one final step. Let's go back to layout. We're in layout, back to object mode. And now I'm going to make my bird kind of pass back and forth. So, I want to start on 0. Make sure my time indicator is on 0. And I want to grab my bird bod, my skeleton, and I hit I to make a keyframe. Then I want to go to, let's see, 60 is the halfway mark. So I'll go to 55. And I'm going to say G to move this guy, except I should probably move him perfectly on the y-axis. So GY and move him just a little ways. Then I hit I to make my keyframe. Let's see how that's looking. Oh yeah, he goes right across the screen there. Then I want to go to 65, which is just past the halfway mark. And I'm going to rotate him perfectly on the x-axis. So I do z-axis, R, Z, 180, and I spin him around, click him down, I to create a keyframe. So now he walks across, he spins around, and now he's going to walk right back, and I want him to be right before the end, 115. I'll have him be about where he was at the beginning. So G, Y, move him right here. And I to create a keyframe. And then I'll move this to the very end. And I'll say R to rotate, Z on the Z axis, 180 to spin him right back around to where he was. Then I to create a keyframe. And now when I play it, it'll be a perfect loop of him walking back and forth. Spin back and forth. And now if I hide those elements, you see my bird is just moving back and forth, back and forth. And now I'm done with the tutorial. I can record a screen recording of my perfect little bird walking back and forth. And I can post this to YouTube and share it on my blog and share it with all my friends and say, hey, look at the adorable little bird model I made. He walks back and forth, back and forth. Thanks for watching my tutorial.